Welcome to 2 on the 10.
Oh, 2 on the 10, baby. We back. Oh,
I'm Mitch.
Greedy Nick.
Greedy.
Hey, well, I just want to say it's good being back another week.
Definitely hot as hell still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know how to say these balls out here, but I love it. That's why we always in the pool. We had a great weekend. All two of you guys came over and swam in the pool and stuff like that.
Sounds like a big party, all two of us.
Yeah.
There's a few more people, just for the record. Pause.
Definitely.
A few more females. Actually, a lot more females. Shout out to them.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch, it was the first time you swam without your floaties. I was very
It was the first time you left a floaty.
I was very proud of you, my brother. I'm very proud of you. But hey, you got a few people you got to shout out. Huh?
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, as we've been growing this podcast, we definitely appreciate all the support, all the word of mouth, all the people that have shared, liked, commented, and really tuned in with us. And it's very, very humbling, and it also is, one of the reasons that we do this and push this, and it's all organic so far. So I want to shout out two different people today. I want to shout out my boy Shane Martinez. I ride motorcycles with him and stuff. Anyway, I've known him since the Fat Willie days when he was out there drinking before he was like 21 and shit. So, shout out to my boy Shane. He actually is a big fan of Greedy Nick. Remember Nick?
Greedy.
He was like, man, Nick, why you let Mitch talk to you like that? You got to talk shit about him. So, shout out to my boy Shane. And then also shout out to my boy David Blassie, all the way from the high school days. We used to be rivals in grammar school and shit. He just found out about it, so he's been tuning in. I think he's on episode 9. So, by the time you catch up, Dave, it's probably going to be a month or two. But, hey, shout out to you, man. Thank you.
There you go. Sounds like we're getting a pretty big contingency going on out there. But speaking of big, did you hear about the Lizzo lawsuit?
I see what you did there.
Right now, she's getting sued by her dancers for some misconduct. Greedy, you got a little bit info?
Yeah, so 3 of her dancers are suing her for harassment, sexual harassment, fat shaming, making sexually explicit comments.
Hold on. Back up real quick. You said fat shaming?
Yes.
So hold on, as in Lizzo's fat shaming somebody?
Yes.
Isn't that the pot calling the kettle fat?
Something like that. But she, I guess she took dancers to like a sex show and encouraged her dancers to touch the nude women and handle their dildos and their bananas.
Pause.
Used in the performance.
Pause.
Banana chips.
Pause.
This sounds like some Thailand.
So no, seriously, this is mind blowing because unless this is this fake, which we are in a fake era as far as I'm concerned. Lil Nas X, is it really his agenda or not? He was on the Maury show, before that, just trying to get his claim to fame, trying to be controversial type stuff. Mm-hmm. We got Lizzo. Is this really her movement? Is she really trying to be empowering, or is she just trying to empower another check? If I'm hearing this correctly, what's next? Ellen John doesn't like the gays?
Maybe. I don't, it's just, sometimes the people that are the biggest supporters are also the biggest haters at the same time.
Yes. Or it could be a money grab, It could be a money grab by the dancers, they're getting kicked out, they were losing some weight, and Lizzo was kicking them out, and they decided, hey, anybody can come out with a lawsuit, so,
That's true. There are 3 sides to every story.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 sides with Lizzo. I don't know.
I don't know how many sides, but,
We out here throwing a whole bunch of fat jokes.
Hey, no, seriously, as far as like top 5 MCs, do you have Lizzo in your top 5?
Come on, bro.
top 5 heaviest?
Yeah. Whoa.
You going to put her up on the mural next to Big? And Big Pun and...
Hey, Paul, who you got on your mural? Pac, Jay-Z, Biggie,
Wait.
Lizzo.
Who's the top 5 heavy set? Big Pun.
Heavy D.
Fat Joe, and Lizzo? Is that top 5?
Nah, Lizzo ain't no
E40.
close.
E40. Hey, he's lost some weight. He look good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shout out to Fody.
Yep. That's your boy, your Bay Area guy.
No, definitely.
But, 2 on the 10 podcast, we did reach out to try to find some more information. So we reached out to Lizzo. And Mitch, I hear you have a comment she gave to us.
I think I might have messed that up. I don't know that was actually. We can't confirm.
I don't know was that Lizzo? I'm not sure. I couldn't hear it very well. So.
Oh my God! Just wow. Was that a direct quote?
It was some. It was some. It was some. It was some. I don't know about you guys, but I think it's about damn time we move on to the next topic.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of music, I mean, just the music today, and I don't want to sound like an old man or nothing, but
Trash.
it's just, I mean, just the way music's changed over the years. It's really like they're pushing an agenda. I know you just talked about, Little Nas X or whatever, and just some of this crazy stuff that's going on, Mitch. I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on music and what you think's going on with
Well,
it.
before that, because I definitely want to get Mitch's opinion, because I know you have a lot to, talk about on the subject, but
So you're saying I'm opinionated?
I mean, yeah, you definitely have a strong opinion, but I just feel things have changed. I mean, when we talk about, we joke about Pac and Big and who the greatest, but I believe when they both passed away within 6 months of each other, it changed the whole landscape. And this is one of the reasons why I'm kind of, mad at Jay, because I think he allowed that to go on, because he could have stopped this whole thing. Because if Big and Pac were alive, they would have killed them on wax.
I'll even see Big L too. I mean, he didn't get his shine, but real people that know hip hop, listen to Freestyle with him and Jay-Z back then, and just see how
He was dope.
how far how advanced he was.
I think his death allowed Jay-Z to become what he is. I think if he doesn't die, maybe we're talking about Big L and Beyonce,
Just like Aaliyah's death allowed Beyonce to become what she is.
Right. Interesting conspiracy there.
Put on your tin hats, folks.
But Mitch, no, well, definitely. Let me hear your opinion on what you think. The music industry and how the music industry is getting hijacked.
Okay, yeah, no, so, I definitely call it the hijacking of hip hop, but I mean, we can even divulge even further into just music itself. I'll just say this, I grew up on hip hop like all of us did, early 80s, mid 80s, every aspect of hip hop, actually rap. But I mean, you had your your b-boying, your breakdancing, you had your graffiti, you had your DJing, you had obviously you had the music. And so there's definitely, all the different aspects of hip hop that come together. Most people just know it as the music side of it, or took the rap side, and then it became more hip hop when it became more mainstream. But I mean, you had your groups. I mean, obviously you had the Sugar Hill Gangs, and you had the, Melly Mel's, the Kumo D's, the Treacherous Threes, all this stuff, the Busy Bees, all these different groups that paved the way.
Even the old school LL Cool J.
Exactly, which is truthfully, I mean, he's the one that actually started the whole GOAT talk by putting an album out, that said he was the GOAT. And now, people use that, run with that. But my 2 cents, and again, this is just my opinion, is people didn't understand hip hop when it first came out. It was, for lack of a better term, I mean, it definitely caused a little decision, like it caused a divide in race, at first. A lot of people couldn't understand it. And so, I mean, I remember being in high school parties fighting over the tape player. And the irony of all this is that when I'm 16 and I'm at a party at a different city and we're fighting over, they're playing Guns N' Roses and we're going to play Too Short and Mac Dre and whatever else we played, or even Run DMC, Beastie Boys. The people that, we got into fights, literal fights over, and they were calling us, especially if you were in a certain skin tone, they called you, different names or whatever, and we got in fights over that shit. They're the same people that are taking their kids or their grandkids to hip-hop dance class now.
True.
So, hey, we won the battle back then, and we won the war now. But
did we really win the war?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's really what goes on behind the scenes, in my opinion, like with the hijacking of what I call hip hop. Because if you look back into the late '80s, some of the most popular groups that were on rap stations was Public Enemy, Paris.
Right.
I don't know if people even know Paris, but you had Paris, you had Ed O.G. and the Bulldogs.
Run DMC.
Yeah, of course, Run DMC.
Right.
You had what's it called? You had the KRS-One, Teacher basically.
Yep.
And then one of the ones that's I find most surprising, you had Brand Nubians. You had Jungle Brothers, Gangstar, De La Soul.
Yep.
Obviously Tribe Called Quest.
Right.
But one of the other ones was even you had a group like X Clan that would talk about the red, the red, the black and the green. With a key, you sissy, and all this stuff. And you had urban kids listening to that shit. And you even had someone buying African medallions and stuff.
I had one.
Yeah, so,
exactly.
And I really believe it was then that the powers that be sat back and go, hold on a second, we can't make a joke about this anymore. We have to take this seriously, not only financially, but for actual control. I always heard rumors of this big, industry record, meeting that was supposed to have happened in the late 80s, early 90s, where a lot of the head, record execs from Universal, Sony, et cetera, came together and basically said we have to push this agenda of not only gangster music, drug selling, derogatory comments to women. That's going to be what is going to be pushed, And I'm weird about it because that was also a lot of what the West Coast was pushing.
Right.
I grew up on Too Short and stuff like that, and I know he didn't know when he made this shit, through friends and stuff. He didn't know that this was going to be what it was.
Right.
But I think they truly grabbed some of this stuff, and it also aligns with when Biden and Clinton then pushed the different law changes when it came to crack cocaine compared to cocaine. Like crack, you do 5 years just by holding it, whatever.
Right.
And then all sorts of other things started aligning, which really affected the black community and any poor communities, but definitely the black community, which I do truly believe was on purpose. You take the father figure out of the household, and then you start even paying the mother to not have a father in the household.
Right.
And what do you think the results are? The results are what we've been dealing with for the last 15 years,
Right.
in my opinion. You send people to jail, which is a prison for profits. Prison for profits.
Yeah. Privatizing the jails.
And if you look into the contracts, you can all just do the information on this. This is not conspiracy. They have to be a certain percentage full, otherwise some people, people aren't going to get paid.
Right.
And in fact, the liability goes back to the state, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so of course you're going to fill these prisons up. And with that said, music is very influential. I know it's affected me. I don't know if anybody else. From how I dressed, how I talked, to how I talk to women. As far as dating and what I thought of myself, what songs I listened to before I played in a football game to get myself amped up, or before I got in a fight. And there's, and obviously if you added liquor to that, it was a combustible fire.
Right.
So if you see where that went.
And isn't that about the same time that they introduced the 3 strikes laws?
Yeah,
And started putting people away for, sometimes petty crimes on their 3rd strike.
no, of course.
And you're in jail for life.
Especially in California.
California,
and then, like I said, crack. It's funny because if it's cocaine, it's fine, but if it's a derivative of it, there's not even, they just went right to it. Right after it came out, let's make this rule. If you're caught with that, you do 5 years automatic.
Yeah. Right.
So taking people out of their households. And then at the same time, they're still flying in the dope from the CIA into South Central and handing it to Freeway Ricky Ross. Not the Rick Ross, the correctional officer that's a rapper. We're talking the Freeway Ricky Ross.
Right.
That people are basing their rap life on, know?
Yeah.
And, and that's the whole Iran Contra. Look this up. These are all facts. This is nothing about that.
No,
the reporter that reported it, Gary Webb, San Jose Mercury News, rest in peace to him, for 48 hours, he was praised on breaking the story. Then all of a sudden the phone calls come in and they tell him he has to pull it, and they dog him basically, and everybody in the industry just basically blackballs him, and his career's done. He ends up committing suicide, which he gets suicided by 2 shotgun blasts to the face.
Oh shit.
Not 1, 2.
Right.
That's not the biggest middle finger to what really is going on, But so back onto and off the rambling. You have this, you have these, the power players in the music industry. Now they're the gatekeepers. They're going to start signing certain acts. And that's where you start getting the fugazi, act like almost CB4-ish, like act like you're this, act like this, sell this, say this, do this, push this. And they control, most of what was going on. The real people, they don't really want to mess with unless they were that hot or they were pushing that agenda, in my opinion. And you went from this in the 90s. So you took, black empowerment off the radio, and it was not hitting mainstream anymore. You took that off. Now that's backpack rap. And now you've got drug dealing, drug selling, misogynistic, pimping, all this stuff, which goes into like the mid-90s, And then it's funny because all of a sudden you start seeing that certain songs. I remember the first time I heard, and this is hip-hop in general, Beyonce's, or Destiny's Child, Can You Pay My Bills?
Right.
Or THC Scrub, you're on the passenger side of your best friend's ride. When that become a crime,
Right.
It started putting the materialistic, ideas in. I remember Jay and Jermaine Dupri and all of them started talking about platinum, and gold wasn't even good enough.
Right.
Look where that led. Gold's.
Well, I remember songs like 80s, 90s, they talked about like rolling in the Lexus.
Or a Jeep.
A Jeep, yeah.
Right.
And now it's like, they start putting things that are unattainable for the average person.
Just like MTV Cribs did. I remember how I felt when Jermaine Dupri sat there and said, if you don't have a key to this Bentley right here, you're not a big dog, you're not doing it. Was that on accident, or is this all materialism that's pushing people's heads that, kind of crush their insecurities,
Right.
Because now you're taking stuff and you're not making it obtainable. You're making people still feel a certain way, and they're kind of captive to that, in my opinion. And you can play on their insecurities. With that said, we went from drug selling, drug dealing music to the prison and profit stuff, to all of a sudden you're starting to look at drug using music, and then eventually drug addict music. And if you notice the different drugs, how it switched.
Right.
It used to be liquor. It used to be liquor. It used to be weed. And now it's gotten all the way to pills, lean, pills, Xan, perks, Molly. Most of the stuff, that these pharmaceutical companies can, get their hands on.
Right.
So it's almost like, kind of in a back door to the dealer itself. They don't need to fly it in from the planes anymore,
Gotcha.
And
So you're saying they're using these mumble rappers to push their agenda, is what you're saying right now?
that's my opinion. Yeah, definitely.
When they glorify, I mean, music, it's always been used to like glorify things. You look at like the Beatles, they were, they pushed whatever they were pushing, they could sell anything. Their fans were like rabid fans, kind of like what we talked about in the past about like Taylor Swift, anything she does, her Swiftie fans go crazy. They'll buy it up. They'll do whatever, like, selling out merch at shows, people just lining up just to buy merch and then leaving, like to resell it, just craziness. And then you got, anything you push, like back in the day, the liquors I used to drink were based on what I used to hear in the rap songs. I'd be like, oh, they're drinking Alizé. I'm going to get some Alizé. I didn't know what Alizé was. Right. So Tupac started rapping about it.
Drank a bottle of Hennessy you got on your shelf. Exactly. I remember the first time, and Mac Dre full of the Hennessy. I'm like, I got to go buy a bottle of Hennessy at 16,
Yeah, not knowing what it is, but because they rapped about it, that's what you wanted. So they do that with the drugs, and then, you remember back in the day, they talked about everybody smoking weed, smoke weed every day. Yeah. And, everybody was smoking weed because now that it's legal, now they're pushing on to the next thing, like Mitch said, like all these prescription drugs and the Xanax and shit.
And then to add to that.
So are they going to normalize? So are we getting that? Are they going to normalize it, or is this just them pushing their agenda so they can sell it more to the masses?
I mean, I think it's definitely. I definitely think it's sell it more to the masses, but it's also a destruction of society. I mean, out of chaos is order. And if you notice everything, we'll touch on it a little bit later in a lighter note with sports, but it's like the breaking of everything, of structure, and then creating chaos. And then out of chaos, I hate using the Illuminati or whatever, the occult stuff, but like one of the biggest things is out of chaos comes order, right. And it's like, and you could kind of almost see we're in these times, it seems like there's a lot of chaos, and eventually the goal is to have us ask for the order,
Yeah. And on that note, I mean, we talked about like R&B, you talk about music in the 80s and 90s, talk about lovemaking, talk about your girl wanting to be married, crush on you. And then as it got into the late 90s, it was...
Or even being, hey, how do I talk to that girl?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that was a real feeling.
Can I talk to you?
Yeah. Or, can we talk for a minute? Kevin Campbell and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Nick. But again,
yeah, and then it slowly progressed into like the stripper mentality. Let me throw bands at her. Bands will make her dance. And...
Right.
And then
it ain't tricking if you got it.
Yeah, and then it got into like, fuck these hoes and this and that shit. And then now it's kind of gone full circle. And now like the women are putting out the most provocative stuff. You listen to like Cardi B and some of these other rappers, like the stuff they're saying wouldn't even be able to be played on the radio. Like, we had 2 Live Crew back in the day and they got banned. Yeah. It's readily played on the radio, Cardi B songs and all the shit she talks about. Like,
what about the one you were mentioning earlier?
Yeah, my pussy pink and my booty hole brown.
Pause.
Like that's this like a normal song on the radio that kids are like, yeah, they don't know what they're talking about.
And then the other thing is, you go to Instagram too, and you start seeing like what's it called? You'll see moms like 40-year-old moms, 40 to 50-year-old moms, sitting there singing these lyrics word for word. Like reliving their youth. And I'm not knocking reliving a youth.
Right, but are they desensitize us to all of this? You know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, like just making it normal. So
it's kind of making it normal, and it's also a little bit in a little way brainwashing. Like a lot of times people quote these songs. Like I've seen a lot of both. You could tell people are in their feelings, when they make some of these posts, and then they're using certain songs that is the message for either pumping them up or showing you how they feel. Right. And a lot of times these songs, especially some of the females I see online. They're using this as their inspiration, so it's definitely working.
Yeah, some of these songs, and back to talk about women empowerment, it's like, oh, well, we can talk about this because we're empowered and we can talk about our sexuality and we can do this or we can do that. Well, yeah, you can, but the way you talk about it and the way some of these rap lyrics go, like, is that really appropriate for the masses?
Right.
Like, that's not even saying that when the dudes did it, like, because I get the counterpoint. It's like, well, guys can do it. but maybe it wasn't right when they did it.
Right.
You know, like when Freaky Tales came out, maybe that wasn't the right song for us to be listening to when we were 16. You know what I mean? Just to be honest. I mean, it was brilliant, brilliantly written.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. But you know, again, is that really, you know, is that really what? I mean, let's put it that. Is that really what you want out of a wife if you're trying to wife somebody up? I don't know.
I mean.
Well, I think they're trying to kill
Behind
the-
closed doors, yeah, that's something.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, you want to, you know,
I think-
you want a lady in the streets and a freaking sheets,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
of
for
course.
sure.
But I think for many years they've tried to kill the
marriage,
normal
yeah,
family,
of
the
course.
man and woman family, 2 kids and a dog. They don't want that anymore.
Well,
They
let's-
want multiple family, divorce. You know, they want people to grow up in chaos.
And we haven't even touched on the demasculization of the male and also the black male, truthfully.
Yeah.
But also just the male role. That's huge. I mean, I started seeing it when, you know, I remember when Sway was going to have an interview with Kanye, and I thought they were going to come out right then and there. He's wearing his pink polo, and they were going to sit there, and he's like, you know, we can't talk about this. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not for bullying anybody or putting anybody down whatsoever, you know, but I'm not for agendas that are hidden that especially affect our kids, you know.
Yeah.
And so there's a difference. Like, again, I'll repeat myself. If I see somebody, I don't care what sexual orientation you are, if you're, you know, if you're just a good regular person, I got your back. You know, I'll make sure if I'm there, you're not getting bullied, whatever else. So let's not get that twisted. But I'm not for pushing an agenda. You know, it's, you know, pushing an agenda on people that aren't willing, you know, not knowing of it, you know?
Yeah.
Because if your agenda is so damn good, then we should just be able to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we should be able to talk about it regularly. It doesn't need the sensationalism. It doesn't need the hidden effect.
I agree
It
with
doesn't
that.
need people. It doesn't need people in the highest places, you know, secretly putting it into places. You know, most things in secret aren't good. You know.
No, that's true. No.
And, yeah. So no. So again, back to that whole point. And then I'll even take one more point. You notice how I know people make fun of this shit, but like. I notice how they had the boy bands, and I'll even include New Edition as one of the boy bands, you know, which I think was probably the greatest of all of them. That was my favorite, you know. But like you had New Edition, you had New Kids on the Block,
What the version of the New Edition?
Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike. But
There you
although Johnny Gill could, you know, he could
Johnny
sing.
Gill killed it. Yeah, for sure.
You know, yeah. So and then you had New Kids on the Block, which killed it, you know, for the '90s, early
Yeah,
'90s.
right.
And then that kind of there was a backlash on that. Then all of a sudden, about '97, they started trying to push it again. You had 98 Degrees, you had NSYNC, you had LFO, Backstreet Boys, right? And then even O-Town. And there was a huge era. And if you listen to those songs, or if you've heard those songs, they're pushing the, you know, the typical I have a crush on a female because that was what, you know, people in school could relate to.
Right.
You notice the boy bands are gone. I mean, I think the last ones were the Jonas Brothers, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's that Korean group, you know, Butter or whatever, but it's a little different, you know.
Yeah.
Now, but those are gone because it's also that agenda's gone, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
Like, it's not about love. It's not about crushes. It's not about how to talk to somebody. This, you know, it's just not anymore.
Right.
You know? I mean, we see.
I mean, if you ask kids these days, I would say over half the kids want to be YouTube stars or TikTok stars, not a viable, you know, any kind of career. Like, I mean, it works for some, but that's very few. Not everybody's going to be a TikTok star. Not everybody's going to be a podcast star. But I'm just saying, you know, like everybody thinks that. I mean, we got into podcasting and we started doing this because we enjoyed it. We like to just sit down and talk.
And we got a lot of shit to say.
We got a lot of shit to say.
Whether people want to listen.
But we're not here to become millionaires. Like that's not our plan. But there's many
It
people.
happens.
hold on a
It
second.
happens now, you know.
I'm just saying.
I'm a lot, you know. I'm not
Cash App's at the bottom of the screen.
But I'm just saying, like the majority of kids these days think that, you know, that's something to strive for. Is like, I just want to be a YouTube star, or I just want to be famous, and I just want to be a celebrity, or when, you know, whatever happened to being a doctor or a lawyer or a fireman or whatever, you know, like that used to be what people looked up to and strived to be, and now people look to be something where it's like, I don't have to do anything, I don't have to have any talent, and I can get paid a lot of money.
And it's
that's
also,
what people want to do.
And you can see me on your phone. I mean, that's the
Yes.
other thing too. That's one of the biggest things, you know.
it's not sexy anymore. You know.
No,
Yeah.
it's really not.
No, definitely. But kind of switching topics here a little bit. You know, talking about, you know, things changing and stuff like that. How about what's going on in the Pac-12 right now? You got Colorado just left for the Big 12. Arizona's rumored to be leaving for the Big 12.
And we're talking college football too for some of our followers that, you know.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
we got a lot of
sorry.
female followers that, you know.
Yeah, true.
Well, it's actually college athletics in
that's
general,
true,
because it's
true.
not just football, it's
True.
all,
Yeah, true.
it's all sports that they fall under that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, USC and UCLA already moved to the Big Ten.
Right.
Or they're moving, I think, next year or this year. Colorado's going next year to the Big 12. Big Ten's now rumored to be interested in all of the West Coast teams, Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford. The Big 12 is rumored to be interested in Arizona, ASU, Colorado, or Utah, and then they've already got Colorado. So it's like the destruction. They're killing the Pac-12. I mean, the Pac-12 won't exist in a couple of years. I really believe that. And that's sad to say because that's the conference I grew up with. And
That's when you
it's
played
a
it.
storied and historic conference. And
Exactly. It's a
it
conference
will
of
not-
champions.
Yes.
You know. So.
But I think when when they started paying athletes and they started making an emphasis and kind of the downfall of the NCAA, and I think it's now super conferences. That's what's important. Let's get the best 15 or 20 teams and have 3 or 4 conferences, and then that's all people are going to watch. They're trying to make it into some super thing to watch with these big conference tournaments, and then obviously some kind of playoff system with probably 8 or 12 teams, and just they're going to be raking in the money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how they're going to do that. I mean, it would be considered the Big 20.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, you had the Pac-10 for years, and it was the Pac-12.
Right.
Exactly. It's going to be the Pac-2, Tupac, whatever, the Big 40.
Yeah, but they'll just call it like whatever. They're like the SEC conference. They may have 15 or 20 teams. They'll just come up with some catchy name like that for all the conferences, and instead of including a number in it. It'll be the ACC, the SEC, the big whatever and whatever else, whatever they decide to change their names to. But it's just crazy that it's. I think it's going to be the beginning and the end for college athletics as we know it. I think it'll be the haves and the have-nots. So if you're in one of those super conferences, it'll be part of the haves, and all of your sports teams will be able to do whatever they want. And if you're not in one of those and you're one of the secondary teams, you're going to be,
playing junior colleges.
Designated to, local games, and not a lot of travel and not a lot of money coming in.
So you think they're going to have like super conferences? Because here's the thing: college football. Let's just focus on college football right now. Is huge. I mean, it's just as big, I think, or maybe even bigger than NFL. You really think these lower tiers, especially with paying college athletes, and they can jump from school to school, and if a school can figure out how to lure away 3, 4, maybe 5 big time athletes by paying them more to these quote unquote lower tier schools, you actually think they'd still be?
Well, I think they're going to end up with probably 4 conferences, somewhere of 20 teams each. So that's 80 teams.
Right. That's all stupid.
And then after that,
think it's dumb.
it's not going to matter. No one's going to watch it. So if the money's not there, the boosters aren't going to be paying to get the athletes there if nobody's watching the games and nobody's paying
But
attention.
there's still. Let's put it this way. I'm not even the biggest fan of any of this stuff right now. I've kind of lost my love for college. College. I bet on it occasionally and stuff like that. But Michigan fans are Michigan fans.
Right.
They have a family history. You got your, U of A fans, your UFA fans.
Right.
Obviously, your Notre Dames or your Notre Dames. The big schools, Auburn's, Alabama's, the history. That family history is not going to get wiped out because they go to a different conference. There's still the pride. There's still something to do. And like you said, some people love Saturday football more than they like Sunday football.
Yeah, but it will change things because you look at right now, if, let's say, Arizona goes to the Big 12, but ASU doesn't, that's a huge rivalry that may cease to exist
Gotcha.
unless they can figure out a way to find a way to play each other
But
each
you
year.
know what? But again, that's up to the schedule makers, and they should, because they know that's a draw.
Yeah.
It should be an off schedule. But that's not going to mean, in my opinion, that a diehard U of A guy goes, okay, well, I don't follow it anymore or support it because they don't play ASU.
No, it's not that they won't.
But they do have non-conference games. Now they do have it at the beginning of the year, and maybe that's a rivalry game if you're out of conference.
But we've seen sometimes when teams change that they lose that rivalry.
Yeah.
When Colorado left the Big 12, they, some of the teams that they played a lot that they had these rivalries with, like Nebraska and things, those games ceased to exist. They just stopped playing. Now, it didn't affect either team one way or another, other than they just didn't play them anymore. But you kind of lose that tradition and that history. And then, like I said, where it's really going to affect is those after you got those first 80 teams, it's going to be those lower tier. Now, the only team that kind of throws a wrench into that is Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, yeah.
They're the last holdout to join any conference because they have that following. They're like that one team. They're like America's college team, you know?
Right.
In the 90s, maybe.
But they still are. I mean, they still have a huge following. There's still a lot of people that love them. But I think what's going to happen is they're going to eventually be forced to join because they'll be the odd man out.
Well, then we'll use Notre Dame as the example. Then that should give the idea that other people are going to follow their teams just like Notre Dame, even though Notre Dame hasn't really been relevant since Lou Holtz in the 90s.
Yeah, but they got. I mean,
They got a lot of,
every Sunday they're on NBC. They have that.
They have
every
their
Saturday,
own.
yeah, yeah.
They have their own package.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course,
You know what I'm
of
saying?
course,
I mean, that's one team you can always count on. Watching on Saturday.
But it used to be way bigger in the 90s.
Oh, yeah,
Like
of
it was
course.
Notre Dame was like when Notre Dame like speaking of rivalries, Notre Dame and Florida State was a rivalry.
Yeah.
It's not anymore.
Right. No.
Yeah, I just think
no one seems
that,
to
I think in sports in general, we're seeing a big shift in, the rules and
And the history of
and
it.
the history of it, and they're changing it, and some may say it's for the better, but purists, people that really enjoy the sport, some of the things they're not so fond of. you know?
Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna jump in real quick, and again, being the conspiracy theorist of everything, everybody else is the coincidence theorist. It's like it's funny to me because why are all the sports leagues that and they're making money and they're super successful, and now that sports betting's here, it's even more successful. So they don't need the money. Why are they making all these rule changes, to change the history of the sport? To me, there's, again, possible background agendas. This is our entertainment. We've already seen politics get dragged into this. We've already seen other agendas. We've already seen so many things that are, and again, I always go back to look at who owns the major sports companies, Disney, by ABC, through ESPN, that says a lot, to me.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't to you guys, but to me, it definitely does.
But I will say something about that. ESPN is hemorrhaging money right now. They
also have to pay for Pat McAfee.
Disney's laid off a ton of personalities that they've had for many, many, many years.
Right.
And
Mark Tyson.
there are rumors, and obviously this rumor's been out there for a long, long time that Disney's going to sell out to Apple, and then Apple's going to own the rights to all the Disney products, and it'll just booster Apple.
Which is another company. They based their first ad on their first computer was sold for $666.66 to buy to the Apple, the Garden of Eden. It makes perfect sense.
But some people say that cutting the fat at ESPN, trying to reduce the expenses there, may point to some type of sale, and maybe Disney just dumps ESPN somewhere to another entity. But
Well, here's the thing. It's lots of. I know this much. I don't really watch this shit anymore.
No.
I used to love this shit in the '90s.
Oh, yeah.
When it was more pure, when it was real, just like R&B and hip hop.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. Now we sound like we could be the three old dudes podcast. I get that. You know what I mean? But to be honest, that when it was more pure, when it was more legit, when you didn't see the agendas floating around.
Well,
that was our entertainment. That was our getaway.
Well, I think just
Out the back door into their
just like
ideas.
MTV,
Yeah.
ESPN kind of evolved, and they involved not just you just don't get the the broadcasting on just the sports itself. Now you're getting all these talk
getting the
radio
life-
shows.
you're getting the lifestyle.
Yeah. You get the
opinions
talk
and
radio
opinions.
show and around the horn. And,
Well, I'll tell you this: when I lost interest in ESPN is when I noticed their shift from just strictly covering sports and highlights.
That's what I'm saying.
And they started doing the fluff pieces and trying to bring the female audience in. It's like, well, females like sports; they're going to like sports. They're going to watch either way. They started talking about like, this person or that, and they started making it less about sports and more about like family and entertainment and trying to like cover every base so that more people than just sports fans would watch it. But it was perfectly fine just as a sports channel.
But you know what they
It didn't
realized?
need all that stuff.
You know what they realized, and I call it the Beanie Baby effect, because there's very few things in my lifetime that get the whole family involved.
Right.
And Beanie Babies was one of them. You know what I mean? When it happened at their heyday, you have the grandma, and I know because I used to sell Beanie Babies for a lot of money back in the day.
I
Exactly.
used to buy them from you.
Yep, exactly.
My girl.
Yeah, and
You and Ken
Yep.
rolling down the Tucson.
yeah, exactly. What's it called? And I'll just say this: the Beanie Baby effect, and I created this term just so I want credit for it, full credit, of course. But it was one of the few things that I saw, and it's a problem when you have the grandma buying for the grandson, and the father buying for the daughter, and the mom buying for the cousin. You know what I mean?
Or herself.
Yeah, or herself, exactly. and they all collected, and it was one of the few things I've ever seen where the whole family was on board. And when the whole family was on board, the pocketbooks came out, and they viewed it. And it was it was pretty wickedly brilliant, the philosophy behind it that I saw. I was like, well, you know what? We're all spending time with each other as a family, so it's got to be great. Let me go ahead and spend this much on this and this and this. I've sold Beanie Babies for, that were once $5 for 300, and different things like that. I mean, I'm not saying, like I might have paid $150 and sold it for 300, and stuff, but you witnessed it at my store.
Yeah. I was in there. My girl was into that. I was buying Beanie Babies for her, and I thought it was a waste of money, but she liked it, so she wanted to collect all the different ones she wanted to collect.
Yep. And I mean,
it's crazy.
So I call it the Beanie Baby effect. They try and get everybody else involved, get it a family thing. Let's all watch ESPN.
And here's the thing with ESPN. So the way I used to consume it was I'd be doing stuff at the house. I'd flip on ESPN. I'd be listening. Occasionally, I'd hear something. Oh, I'd turn around and watch like the highlights from a game that I wanted to hear.
Yep.
And it would just be kind of background, but I'd watch it and pay attention to the different games that I wanted to hear, watch the highlights, see the top 10. And then it became, all right, I saw 2 highlights, and now they have a 10-minute piece on, some college baseball player that lost his parents in a fire, and now they're going to talk about him and his rebuilding of his family.
Yep.
And yes, that's a great story, but I don't need that on a sports channel. I want sports, and I think they got too far away from that.
Then they went into politics,
yeah,
and
they
race,
went into politics,
and
race, and then lifestyle, and then they started pushing an agenda, and then it was like, there was a point where I actually went away from ESPN and started watching Fox Sports.
Oh, me too.
Because I thought they at least still had it. They weren't doing all the fluff pieces. They were kind of strictly on sports.
But then they were the opposite for a little bit.
Yeah, they were opposite for a little bit, and it was like probably, I want to say like late 90s, early 2000s, whereas the shift where I started watching Fox Sports instead of ESPN, and I was like, Fox Sports is better. They kind of have the more of the show that was like ESPN back in the day. And then they went
anti-ESPN, so they had controversy.
Yeah. And then they started putting all these shows, where it's like, it's just a battle. It's like, they just say 2 guys, all right, you take one side, you take the other in battle. And whether you believe in what you're arguing about or not, you're just going to argue with someone for the sake of argument because it gets ratings.
And there's no scoreboard, it's just sensational.
Yeah, and you can say whatever you want because it's your opinion. And then at the end of the day, it was like, oh, that was a great show. And there's a couple sound bites that make the internet and everybody talks about it one way or another. And that's what they want. That's what they get.
Hey, it sounds like a podcast. No, I'm just playing.
Exactly. But it's crazy. But
we have nobody shoving agendas down our throats.
But back to ESPN and that, it's sports in general. I look at baseball. They introduced this pitch clock. It's supposed to speed up the game. And then they, if it goes past 9 innings, now they put a runner on second. And it's like, that's like T-ball rules. And now they're putting it in Major League Baseball. Part of the love of baseball is you might go to a game and sit through like a 19-inning game.
Right.
That was kind of the fun of it. Like, you never know what's going to happen. But now it's like they just try to rush in, rush out, get your money as much as they can, and then get you out of the stadium.
And again, speaking on that, you brought up baseball. We're talking Pac-12, Pac-10, NCAA. We're talking also football. They changed the kickoffs and different things like that. They brought instant replay into some of the plays, but not all of them, which doesn't make any sense. We talked about that before.
Right.
It's like, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to solve the problem and bring sensationalism to it?
Well, the kickoff rule, I understand. Yeah. Like, I understand the kickoff rule, fair catch anyway. Get it back on the 25. They're trying to eliminate. Concussions is huge.
Yeah, no, of course.
Of course. Here the athletes are getting bigger, stronger, faster, and they're coming down like freight trains, and you get a full speed ahead. Somebody gonna get seriously hurt. So that's what they're trying to eliminate that one. So that I get what you're saying on that, but that is more safe. That was more safety, and I don't mind them starting on the 25 because most of the time you're gonna get it around the 20, somewhere around it. So starting on the 25, everybody gets a fair shake, and they can do it on both sides. So I see on that, but I get it. I think there's a rule though, and I need to check on this because I saw someone talking about this, and this could affect the running quarterbacks mainly. And I got to go back and look at this and see if this is a preseason thing or if it's a regular season thing. But how you do the veer option. I heard that they're going to make that illegal, and it's going to be like an illegal forward pass.
Even though it's a side pitch?
Yeah, even though it's a side pitch, yeah.
That's terrible because first of my school used to run the veer every play, veer left, veer right.
Right.
Whatever, then the quarterback's like, Jackson and and Hurts.
And so I need to find out if that's something that they're going to implement, or I need to go back and read more on that. But every year they come back, they do rule changes in the offseason and stuff like that, and then they come out with some funny ass
But
rules.
for the pure, and I get your point on the NFL because at the end of the day it's safety. But are they really concerned? Are they concerned about the lawsuits? But either way,
I think a lot of these changes are about the money. Like even the Major League Baseball, like they're trying to speed up the game. Well, if you think about it this way, they stopped selling beer after the 7th inning anyway. So if the game goes 18 innings, they're paying all these people to stand around, but they can't sell beer anymore. So they don't want they want to get it. They want to maximize their value in that 2.5 hour 3 window, and then get you out of the stadium because they made their money. And then also it's easy, they feel it's easier to watch on TV. They can sell it to advertisers. Hey, look, instead of you might have a 3.5 hour game or 5 hour game, you're going to be right in about that 2.5 to 3 hour window now. We can sell ads based on that.
well, not only that, though, people's attention spans are very short.
Very short.
anyway.
True, yeah.
So I mean,
So-
they don't want. They're not
yeah.
even trying to. They want something quick. Say that It's almost like I want to go there, take a picture on Instagram, show I was there. Talk to people in the row, eat something, and then leave.
Right.
Like seriously, that's really what today's society is about.
Right.
I kind of am going there to fulfill my prophecy of taking a picture and letting everybody know I was there.
Right.
Am I really enjoing my time? I don't know.
Right.
Let me go on the next thing. Am I even enjoying life? I don't know. Hopefully, depending on how many likes I get later.
Right.
But let me also add too. Speaking of changes, the NBA, obviously with the in-season tournament.
Yeah. You were telling me about this earlier. Like they're gonna have an a tournament in the middle of the season.
Money grab.
Yeah. Well,
But it baffles me. Like you already have the playoffs. The playoffs already 2 months long.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you need another tournament in the middle of the season?
just some more accolades to talk about. Some more debates. Again, bets. Sports betting. Sports betting is gonna start running everything. So guess what?
Sports betting, money.
Yep.
You can sell tickets to
And
the
then guess what?
in-season playoff games.
Guess what? You get the trophy. Now all of a sudden, the next person, the LeBron types, and then the next person to fulfill that is going to get all these other things that didn't exist, and now it creates the argument.
What do you get mid-season?
You're the tournament champion.
Yeah, the tournament champ, first tournament champ. No one else has done that. Doesn't matter if they were allowed to or not. I'm just saying, you can write a narrative for anything.
I know, but it's just.
Hey, this guy not only won 3 NBA championships, but he won 5 tournament championships.
But does it affect? Mitch, I'm asking you because this is. Like I said, we were talking about it was the first I've heard of it. Does it affect the playoffs in any way? Does the champion come out and do they have an advantage going into the playoffs?
To my knowledge, they don't really.
Okay.
But it may be a way for these future players to pad their stats and say, hey, well, including the playoffs and the
course.
in-season playoff, this guy averaged 20,000 points
Well, not only-
season or whatever,
Not only
whatever it
that, too,
is.
we've become such a society that wants to get to the end of everything, and well, how many chips does he have? And he needs, we look at a person's career and we're like, oh, Steph Curry, he needs 2 more chips. We're not even enjoying his career. We're just saying he has to get his 2 more chips, and if he doesn't, Like they're doing it with LeBron, they're doing it with Kobe, whoever else, KD. All these players, they're counting the chips now, which is so stupid, but debate shows took it to the top. And it's like now at least maybe there's something where there's something else for great players to be able to, grab some more hardware. I don't agree with it necessarily, but I'm going to tune in to check it out, just because. And again, like I said, more sports betting creates another narrative, another story in season. And you know what? Let me just jump this. I know I was talking to you guys about it before the show. Mm-hmm. In my own way, again, I truly believe that you get us with our entertainment, you sneak in the back door, and you're changing everything. Everything that's been around for years, you're changing it all at once. It's not just one league; it's every league. And to me, that puts in the idea that hey, we need to change more things. Let's change the Constitution. Let's change our dollar to a digital thing. When we start going, another rule, I always talk about the rules in sales. The rule in sales is always get people to say yes, Or like you've seen on Boiler Room. If you're drowning and I throw you a life preserver, will you take it? Yes. Pick up 100 shares, it's kind of that same philosophy.
Right.
It's like, okay, we agree we're going to watch it, we're going to partake. It changed, whether I liked it or not. I accepted the change. I sat around, I'm still watching. I still root for LeBron or whoever I do, Booker or whatever. Okay, now that comes time where we're going to switch your dollar to digital. We're going to switch this to this. We're going to switch the chip to put it inside you. Oh, okay, I guess, yes. Again, that's just my philosophy. Just be, again, the Trojan horse, the banana in the tailpipe, it's coming.
So you say they're conditioning us for
Oh,
change?
of course, they're always conditioning us. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. I hear you. Speaking of conditioning, I need to condition that stomach for some food. So I'm a little hungry.
I went to the gym 5 days this week, baby, just cause.
I'm a little hungry. up
Getting
here.
angry.
Yeah, exactly. I hear you. You found any new food spots out there?
Oh yeah, no. We hadn't touched on food, too much lately. No. I definitely found one. I found a spot called ZONA Cantina.
Okay.
I've had a few people tell me about it. They know I do my little foodie posts, and
Right.
Mitch, you always talk about food. You got to go check ZONA Cantina. So the minute they told me, I went that night.
Okay.
Actually, it took me and my girl Chris went. We checked
Shout out
it
to
out.
Chris.
Yeah, she's a fan of the show.
there you go.
Actually, a big fan of the show too.
Right.
Always reposting and stuff. Thanks, babe.
There you go.
So we checked it out, and what's it called? The braised short ribs, taquitos were freaking phenomenal. And like I'll tell you what, they put them in a plate. Like it was like 8 of them, like almost like egg rolls size. And they put them in a plate of extra guacamole. So like after you're done with all that shit, there was hella guac left still. And I've never seen that at restaurants, right? Wow. So, and it was like $14.99 for like 8 of those. It was definitely $15 worth it. Really good braised short ribs, taquitos, and then the other one that was just on point, the firecracker shrimp.
Firecracker shrimp.
Firecracker shrimp.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I love me some bang shrimp.
That's a Zona Cantina.
Bang,
It's
bang.
over in like North Mesa, almost by like Alta Mesa area.
Okay.
It's like on McKellips and like basically Greenfield, Higley area. But
There you go.
definitely worth going.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna try that in the next couple of days. Another spot I'm gonna try is a new spot they just opened up in Gilbert. It's called Mug and Shots. So coming back from my trip, I'm on this bao bun kick right now, and they have some really good bao buns over there. So
So for the layman, what the fuck's a bao bun?
Is it like a man bun but different?
basically, it looks like a big dough ball. So, and for my Islanders and my Hawaiian, it's kind of like mapua.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. So it's like an open mapua. Now,
Sounds
Nick,
like you eat it, I'll be dropping my apua.
you might be saying, "What's mapua?" Trust me, if you never had mapua, go to Aloha Kitchen. Probably the best.
Aloha Kitchen's so good.
It's the best Hawaiian food out there. The kachu chicken with the potato salad.
The potato mac, right?
Potato mac.
They're the
Half
one people that
potato,
potato
half
salad mac.
mac.
Yep.
It is so
Half mac, half amazing.
exactly so damn good. But that's a spot that I'm going to be checking out like here real soon. So,
Okay. What about you, Nick? Anything you've had?
Yeah, so I was just in Flag this past weekend, Flagstaff, and there was actually 2 spots that I went to. One, and I think I may have mentioned it before in this podcast, Dara Thai. It's this Thai food place, man. I went back in there, and man, the food is just so good there. I had the pad see ew, which is like some noodles with chicken, and it had like a sweet, spicy sauce on it. Man, it was
What's this place called?
delicious. It's called Dara Thai. It's right in downtown Flagstaff. Cool little spot. I went there and just had a nice meal. That was the first night I was there. But my buddy George introduced me to this new place there called Atria. It's kind of an upscale steakhouse, seafood kind of place. But they do like specialty cocktails. They basically like handcraft all the dishes. Everything is like kind of farm to table type place. The chef there, she's amazing. She's like a James Beard Award winner. The food is just out of this world. I had a bone-in New York strip that was unbelievable with the sauce on there with like onions and artichoke. The bartender there, he was making these cocktails, and they were called By Popular Demand, and it was like their play on an espresso martini, and it had like fresh nutmeg and cinnamon like sprinkled on the top. This big cube in the middle. I think I drank 8 of those at like $15 a pop or whatever it cost, but that was probably one of the best drinks that I've ever had in my life. It was just flavorful, delicious. I just couldn't get enough of them, and it had that little energy kick from the espresso with the liquor. So it had the best of both worlds. It's kind of like the sophisticated man's Red Bull vodka.
Okay.
Why were you drinking it?
But me, except to how I'm sophisticated. But they were it was amazing. And actually, craziest story, First time in my life I ever tried oysters. Now, I've always been like weirded out by oysters. They just look weird.
I love Rockefeller.
They smell weird.
Yep.
This place, they did some cold ones and some hot ones, and the hot ones came out, and I was like, damn, those smell amazing.
Right.
So I tried one. It was, I don't know, I don't get the whole love of oysters. They were good. Like, I wasn't like, ugh. It was tasty, but I was like, I don't see the love for them. But even this place, they came out with this sourdough bread that they make their homemade. The outside of it's a little bit charred, and inside is like soft, and it has like a buttery inside to it. And then she makes all her own butters, and she does different flavors. So they had like a rhubarb and something butter for that night. Every night it's different. And then a lot of the different like flavor profiles that she uses for the dishes are different. The one thing you guys will love, the chicken. So they do a half and a whole chicken. Even if you get the half the chicken they give you is like a fried, crispy chicken breast. That's like the size of a pancake. It's gigantic.
Right.
And it was delicious. And they give you this butter, honey stuff to dip it in. And then the other side, they cook it in like a sous vide, where they like put it in the water.
Yep.
And it's like the most tender, juiciest chicken you ever taste. But you get the crispy, like fried chicken on one side, and then the tender, juicy chicken on the other. And you can go back and forth. It was
More tender than Chick-fil-A?
oh yeah, by far. It was, and then they do a happy hour during the week. They do that same fried chicken and a slider, like a chicken sandwich. The chicken is it would be, if that was on a sandwich. I haven't tried the sandwich yet. Probably be one of the best chicken sandwiches you ever try in your life.
Really? Okay,
The
so
chicken
what-
is that good. And I had the steak, and I was like, man, I would almost wish I had just got the chicken.
Right.
Because the chicken was that amazing.
What? Okay, so what's this place called again?
It's called Atria. And
Atria.
it's in downtown Flagstaff. Definitely make your reservations. It's not a super big spot, but it's getting really popular. And she's actually bought the suite out next door, and she's building a big steakhouse that's going to go in there and possibly have a little speakeasy underground in the basement. So
Okay.
big things coming from that place, but definitely if you're in Flagstaff and you can get a reservation or just get there early and try to get a seat at the bar, the food is unbelievable.
Okay, Suvia. Okay.
Tell them Greedy Nick sent you.
Yes.
Greedy.
Yes. Speaking of steak, man, I had last night. I was out with my boy. It was his birthday, and we stopped at Bourbon and Bones. I know you said you go in there in a couple days.
Yeah, on Friday.
Yeah. So you definitely need. I was in there, and you definitely need to check out the petite fillet.
Okay.
Also, the pesto shrimp was.
Pesto shrimp.
Yeah, was delicious. They had changed up the menu just a little bit. We had gone in there before, and we were kind of on the fence about it. So
Loved happy hour. Like
the
the
happy hour.
Happy hour.
hour is
For people that don't know, you go to happy hour, and I know they raise the prices a little bit with everything,
they did.
but you go to happy hour. What's happy hour? 3 to 6, maybe 2 to 6,
yeah,
whatever.
3 to 6,
You
yeah.
definitely got to sit at the bar, but definitely get the wagyu. I think now the wagyu is like $50 and it's 25.
Yeah.
At happy hour,
Yeah.
and it's like 4 ounces of wagyu. You put it on a sear. You sear it
on the steak.
Sear it on the rock.
It's like steak and stone. Yeah.
Yep, and you dip it in butter, 10 seconds, turn, and you just eat it like sushi. Amazing, best experience, and that's always been money. But then I remember we loved that so much at happy hour. We're like, man, we got to try these crazy steaks.
Yep.
And I remember we went back, and I think I ordered a $120 ribeye or whatever, bone-in ribeye or whatever, and I thought it was trash.
Yeah, it was
Trash.
it was a little bit disappointing, but like you said, you gotta go back and try everything once or twice, and it definitely I went and petite fillet was.
Yeah, the last time I was there, I had a fillet, and they poured the bourbon over the top of it and lit it on fire, and it was actually really good.
Yeah.
It was like, I know it was kind of like a probably overkill. He probably didn't need it, but it was like really cool because they brought it out as like flaming, added a little bit extra flavor to it, and a little char on the outside.
You're a fan of flaming, aren't you?
Filet mignon. You like filet mignon? I think is what they say, Mitch.
Definitely, man.
So no, I'm definitely okay. I'm gonna probably have to grab that.
Yeah. Definitely check that
I
out.
wrote it down.
'Cause I know you're having a little staycation this weekend. So. Yeah.
Put my business out there.
Oh man, Mrs. Booed Up, I love it. All right, hey, let's get to the thought of the day, man. You know what? I'm gonna start this with Greedy first.
Oh, you're gonna start with me.
What you got me?
And I'm not prepared.
You're
for
not
the thought of
prepared,
the
Greedy.
day,
What's
but-
going on?
No, but what I'm going to say for my thought of the day is that, although things in life are changing, just, never forget where you came from.
There you go.
I mean, we all kind of grew up knowing each other. Mitch, came in when I was just getting into college. He came in kind of into the fold here in Arizona. So, we're going on 20 plus years of knowing Mitch, or over 20 years, and, over 30 years of knowing you, Paul. So
You're welcome.
It's the long-term friends that kind of shape you. And I know some people, they get married, they have kids, things change, but just don't forget where you came from. Don't forget your real friends. Most of my friends are people that I've known since I was, in elementary, junior high, or high school. Like, all the guys that we hung out with then, I still talk to now. So and just remember, although we may not talk every day, doesn't mean that we still ain't boys and we still ain't friends. Life gets in the way sometimes, but when you do get to catch up, that's what makes it great. And that's kind of what I love about this podcast. It gives me that chance, though. We're all busy in life. We get to come spend an hour, a week with each other, shoot the shit, laugh, have a good time, and enjoy each other. So just, never forget that, never forget where you came from.
There you go.
Agreed. And I agree with you 1,000% real quick, jumping on this. What he was saying, too, it's definitely an enjoyable spot, like a stop, pace for the week. I don't know how many times we talked about trying to do stuff together. I say, okay, and the next week, we got to get together, you got to get together. And then all of a sudden, it's like, so this is definitely a blessing in more ways than one, and stuff. And then I'll go ahead, speaking of that.
Yeah, give me your thoughts.
Speaking of that, this kind of just jumps into the same thing. So this past week, unfortunately, I lost two friends. One you knew, Josh Dodd, remember?
Yeah, rest in peace, Josh.
Yeah, you knew him too, Josh.
He was an old employee of ours.
Old employee of ours, a character. Sometimes he got on my nerves, but man, he was definitely a very passionate dude. He loved his Broncos and he loved North Carolina, and he'd always argue with you about North Carolina and Arizona, about which was a better basketball school.
Right.
I used to go to the crib after work sometimes and play him in NCAA football and stuff. And I know he had a couple issues here and there. He has two beautiful daughters, stuff. So man, rest in peace, and God's blessing to you and your family and everything, man. But yeah, he just passed this week. And then also my boy Mike Boomer, we call him Boomer, Boomer Warner. He used to be a big biker dude. He hung out. I met him at the Mooster, my boy Marlon and them. And he just succumbed to cancer. So he, again, rest in peace to him, and blessings to his family, and that they can heal properly, and stuff. And then I, while I was actually writing this, one of the cooks at the Moose that me and Ken and a few other people befriended, his name was Jay. Amazing cook, man. He's this is what I appreciate about him. I'm not going to act like we knew each other forever, but like he knew I was a foodie, and he'd always come, after work, and we'd be like, man, you killed that. Oh, really? Okay, cool. We just talk, chop it up. He'd have a couple drinks or whatever, and we were talking one day, and he's like, and I go, you cooking tomorrow? Yeah. What do you want? And and I'm like, I don't know. He goes, well, let me know. I got this, or this. I go, oh man, the brisket tacos I heard about. Oh, okay, I got to go to the grocery store. Let me write it down real quick. And he was like, I'm gonna have them tomorrow. You better come, whatever. That's the kind of relationship we had, And so I'd go show up, and I'd tell other people to show up. But he does brisket tacos, whatever. Amazing cook, very talented. I always thought if I ever did a restaurant, I'm gonna steal him from the Moose. And anyway, he a couple months ago, had a serious stage in cancer. I just got the text tonight that he just got sent home, and he's got about 24 hours to live. So, my prayers go out to him, to Jay, and his family and his loved ones and everything else. And my point being is that, and I know at our age and my age, whatever, we joke about that stuff, but we're going to see more of this than not. So one, it's like, man, give people their flowers when they're here. Put your pride aside for a second. Settle the disagreements. Quit being petty. Right. If these people are important to you, kind of basing on what you said too, Nick. It's like, man, if these people are important to your life, here's one thing, and I'll share something very, very, like, I've had, I'm very, I used to be like, man, growing up, you can't let people push you around. You have to have a chip on your shoulder. That's where, like otherwise people will walk all over you. And so I developed that to almost a fault. And, sometimes when people, do you wrong, and again, define doing you wrong. It's a difference of opinion. It's, there's three parties looking at it. Or there's your version, their version, and then the truth somewhere in the middle. But I look now, instead of going, oh, you did this to this, and I can't deal with that, so I'm not going to talk to you, or I'm going to treat you different. One, I can't have that energy affect me like that. But two, I have to sit back and remind myself of the 100 things those people did right. And all the times they had my back, and all the times they did this. And if there's one dispute or one thing that's different, and even however the manner is, I got to humble myself enough to go, you know what, take the cumulative of everything, and you care for these people for a reason. Don't just throw it out the window for one thing that you don't even know how that really went about, you know? And I mean, I'm not saying that it didn't go how you thought it was, but be the bigger person and look at the bigger picture, because one day you're going to sit there and go, man, I wish I would just told my friend I cared about him. I wish I would have told him I loved him. I would have told him how much they meant to me.
Right.
And so give your people their flowers. You know, it's not being soft. It's actually being a real thing to do, and it actually takes a lot more guts and courage to really genuinely go up to somebody and say that shit. So definitely, that's my 2 cents. And, you know, again, my prayers go out to all the people and anybody else dealing with loss right now. So.
There you go. And then kind of on that night is I want to challenge our listeners and the people, you know, who watch us, you know, on YouTube and listen to us on our podcast just normally. Go pay it forward this week. I'm going to do it. I challenge you two to do it.
I got it.
In any way, you can be at the grocery store, you can be at the fast food, or anywhere out there. Just pay it forward this week. You know, help somebody out. They may be in trouble, or you know, just be kind. I want this week for us to kind of put that goodwill out there. You know what I'm saying? Especially like I said, with people passing and stuff like that. I want to emphasize people to show compassion this week and be kind. So that is my final word. That is my thought of the day. This is 2 on the 10. Love ya.
Thank you.
Go on, baby. Mwah.